Yul Brynner's daughter, confirms what we thought all along and isn't good. Welcome to my channel, where we explore the stories behind the great Hollywood icons together. Today, we will delve deep into the life of Yul Brynner, a star that many of us who grew up with classic films have always admired. 40 years after Yul Brynner passed away, his role as King Mongkut in the musical The King and I remains a great icon of the stage. But in real life, he was one of the most hated figures in Hollywood. In an interview, his daughter, Victoria Brynner, revealed secrets that had never been made public before. Secret homosexual affairs, a petty and demanding personality, a fondness for imposing absurd rules on others, an obsession with his height, and even openly despising the audience. What created such an extreme Yul Brynner, and which famous actor did he despise to the point of trying every way to undermine him on set, both literally and figuratively? According to Victoria Brynner, her father, Yul Brynner, was the embodiment of a difficult, irritable temperament that exhausted everyone around him. His role as King Mongkut in the film The King and I brought him ultimate glory with the Academy Award Golden Statue. But behind that glory, a wave of controversy arose. The film was completely banned in Thailand for allegedly insulting the image of the king. Off the stage, Yul Brynner became obsessed with this role to the point of bringing King Mongkut into everyday life. On stage, he received admiration for his talent. But behind the curtain, his arrogance and dictatorial nature became hot topics in the press. The legendary actress Ingrid Bergman was one of Brynner's victims on the set of Anastasia. Bergman was significantly taller than Brynner, causing some difficulties during filming. When she suggested using props to cover the height difference, Brynner, who was insecure about his stature, sarcastically replied, "I'll show the whole world that you're as tall as a horse." But Anastasia wasn't the only battlefield. On the set of The Magnificent Seven, Brynner's rival was none other than Steve McQueen, the king of cool Hollywood films. Brynner despised McQueen to the core. The reason was that he wasn't good at riding horses or using guns, things McQueen excelled at. He also hated McQueen because he was taller. When Brynner's ego felt threatened, he chose to attack and weaken his opponent. To counter McQueen's height advantage, Brynner would secretly stand on small mounds of earth in many scenes. But McQueen, already furious with this madman, quietly rebelled. Whenever possible, he would kick away those mounds, pulling Brynner down to his level, both literally and figuratively. It didn't stop there. McQueen deliberately drew attention away from Brynner in the frame by fiddling with his hat, his gun, or changing postures to attract the audience's attention. The tension escalated to the point where Brynner had to hire an assistant just to count the number of times McQueen touched his hat while Brynner was delivering lines. According to co-star Eli Wallach, the atmosphere on set was very tense and competitive. McQueen himself admitted, "We didn't get along. When working with Yul, you have to stand 10 feet away from him." Brynner's arrogance didn't stop there. Frank Langella, who worked with him, revealed that he also harbored racist views. Once, while sitting in Brynner's 6-meter-long white limousine, Brynner proudly boasted about its luxurious features, then suddenly shone a light straight into Langella and his wife's faces, saying with contempt, "In case black people attack my car, I've flashed this light. The light flashes. They think they're being photographed and run away." Not only did his co-stars find him exhausting, but even people in the industry were wary of his picky nature. Brynner demanded that theaters install a special elevator large enough to fit his limousine, just so he wouldn't have to see the crowd below. As for the audience, he didn't hide his contempt at all, once bluntly calling them a bunch of idiots. Shockingly, he refused to bow, even turning his back to the stage when the curtain fell. Filmmaker Ray Harryhausen described him as a great actor, but demanding to the point of exhaustion. His agent Robbie Lance said Brynner's contract demands were obsessively meticulous. From the color of the carpet in the car, the brand of tissues, the type of bottled water, a 13-foot corded touch-tone phone used to fry eggs for breakfast, and fine wine. The peak of this relationship was in 1965, when filming with Marlon Brando. Brynner used his influence to demand the construction of a helicopter landing pad on the filming ship just so he could leave by private helicopter every afternoon. Ironically, despite earning enormous fees, Brynner was notoriously stingy. Frank Sinatra's assistant, George Jacobs, recounted that Brynner often tagged along with Sinatra's son to enjoy free meals and lavish social gatherings. This happened so frequently that Sinatra became annoyed, and Jacobs' friends nicknamed him Uncle Scrooge and the King of Stinginess. But behind the stage lights, Yul Brynner's private life was an even bolder and more complex script. He once had a passionate relationship with male actor Hurd Hatfield. In the early 1940s, while studying at the Michael Chekhov Theater School in Connecticut, Brynner entered into a passionate romance with Hurd Hatfield, who was described as possessing a quiet, aristocratic beauty, like a boy made from moonlight. In their youth, they lived in an atmosphere of creative passion. Amid rehearsals and long nights debating art, they found each other. Many classmates and later colleagues confirmed that it was a profound encounter of body and soul. But in those times, such relationships had to be kept secret. Unlike Brynner, Hatfield later lived openly as a gay man until his death. Meanwhile, Brynner chose to hide his sexual orientation and maintain the image of a charming gentleman. He even posed completely nude for famous gay photographer George Platt Lynes, creating artistic portraits filled with emotion. Although Brynner later married 4 times and publicly dated stars like Marlene Dietrich, Judy Garland, and Joan Crawford, he never admitted to being bisexual. His relationships, including rumored affairs with poet-director Jean Cocteau, were kept absolutely secret. In the press, he only appeared as a sophisticated gentleman, happily with actress Virginia Gilmore, but his private life was only part of the untold story. Even his legendary role as King Mongkut of Siam in the film The King and I hid secrets few knew. The journey to becoming King Mongkut of Siam in the film The King and I. Brynner's path to becoming the king in the play The King and I was like a pre-written drama, starting with humiliating failures, peaking in glorious victory, and closing with brilliant glory mixed with a bit of arrogance. In 1950, when auditioning, Brynner was almost an unknown, standing under the giant shadow of Gertrude Lawrence, the shining star playing Anna, the English governess to the Siamese princes. At that time, the play revolved around Lawrence's character, leaving Brynner as just a supporting role. The audience's indifference toward him reached a peak when an impatient man threw a shoe onto the stage. Brynner, with a cold smile, sarcastically replied, "That shoe is still perfectly good. I guess he hates me so much he wants me to keep it forever." But Broadway is a place where only the persistent survive. The more he performed, the more Brynner discovered a strange energy that attracted the audience. Then he made a decisive move, shaving off his famous long hair, turning himself into a man with a bald, shiny head, sharp eyes like knives, and arched eyebrows. That small change alone was enough to turn Brynner into an icon. When the film adaptation of The King and I premiered in March 1952, Brynner became a global star, winning the Tony Award for Best Leading Actor. But deep inside, he still carried a bitter resentment. His name was still not placed at the top. In August of that year, tragedy struck. After an afternoon performance, Gertrude Lawrence collapsed and passed away a few weeks later. According to author Ken Bloom in his book Show and Tell, Brynner's first reaction was not grief, but standing in front of the entire cast and bluntly declaring, "Now I will be the one put up front." After Lawrence's departure, Brynner's ego swelled to an uncontrollable level. International fame elevated him to the peak, but also nurtured strange habits. One of them was a decree forbidding any press photos of him standing next to another bald man. He even canceled interviews or photo shoots if a bald rival appeared in the frame. In fact, invited photographers and journalists were given a list of rules beforehand. Rule number 1 was no bald heads in the photos, except for Yul Brynner. Frank Langella, who played Dracula while Brynner was playing the king, recalled in his memoir that Brynner lived as if the whole world revolved around him. He could stand for hours in front of a full-length mirror, not only studying every glance and gesture, but also rehearsing every pose and breath as if performing a never-ending role. When returning to the role of King Mongkut in the 1980s, Brynner boasted about his favorite way to humiliate noisy audiences. "The theater is my palace, and I have the right to command." It's no surprise that his reputation as Broadway's tyrant spread quickly. Backstage stories about him publicly insulting, threatening to fire staff, or running companies like dictatorships were commonplace. But for Brynner, this wasn't a flaw. It was a principle. On television, he coldly declared, "I don't tolerate." On stage, "The lazy ones must fear me. Any dead wood I encounter, I will break it in half immediately." Even his 2 children, Victoria Brynner and Yul Brynner Jr., admitted that their father was very strict and sometimes a bit crazy. Growing up under that harsh stage light, Rock chose a different path, managing tours for music legends like the band and Bob Dylan, even serving as a bodyguard for boxing legend Muhammad Ali. But the real person of Yul Brynner was even more obscured by a thick fog of stories he spread about himself. Yul Brynner wrote his own legend. His origins, childhood, and even birth date were cleverly fabricated. Sometimes he claimed to be born on Sakhalin Island, the son of a Mongolian noble and a Roma mother. Other times, he casually revealed different birth years, 1915, 1910, 1920, 1922, as if challenging the press to uncover the truth. When asked about this, Brynner only replied solitarily, "Ordinary people only need one birthday." But in the end, the carefully hidden veil of mystery was torn apart. It was his own son, Rock Brynner, who ended the debate in his memoir. Yul Brynner was actually Julius Borisovich Brynner, born on July 11, 1920 in Vladivostok, Russia. Even when the truth was exposed, Brynner didn't stop weaving. One of his boldest legends was that he fought for the international brigades in the Spanish Civil War. It sounded like an epic film plot, but it was actually just a carefully polished fictional story, another layer of myth about one of Hollywood's most mysterious men. And that was only the tip of the iceberg. In reality, Yul Brynner's childhood was like an adventure film full of dramatic twists that no one could predict. A life full of turmoil and adventure like a novel. Yul Brynner was born amid the political storms raging across Russia. He carried within him a heritage crystallized from many cultures. His father was a mining engineer, his mother, Marusha Blagovidova, a Russian with an artistic soul, born into an upper-class family. It seemed Yul's future would be paved with silk. But history shattered those illusions. When the communists came to power, the family's assets were confiscated. His father left, abandoning Yul and his sister, leaving them to be raised by their mother. His daughter later recounted that Brynner carried a lifelong bitterness toward the father who abandoned him. In 1932, as tensions between China and Japan escalated, his mother fled with her 2 children to Harbin, then a long journey to Paris. This was the beginning of their years in exile. In Paris, Yul never studied at any formal art school for long. He had to do whatever work he could to make a living by playing guitar, singing in bars frequented by Russian immigrants, in the circus. High up on the trapeze, the young refugee boy was a star of the big circus until a horrific accident in 1937 broke 49 bones in his body. The severe back injury haunted Brynner for the rest of his life. forcing him to depend on painkillers for many years. Later, he was treated in Switzerland to detox. After recovering, Brynner moved to a new stage, Broadway. Fluent in English, French, Japanese, Hungarian, and a bit of Russian, he found his way to America in 1940. But the Hollywood dream was still far away. Initially, Brynner was dirt poor, doing every job to survive, from driving buses for theater companies, playing minor roles on stage, to being a French broadcaster for the Office of War Information. It was these years of hardship and struggle that forged Brynner's extreme temperament and unrelenting desire for self-assertion. From a hired hand, he knew well the feeling of being undervalued and left behind. So, when he finally reached the peak, Brynner became almost obsessed with protecting his position, even turning it into an endless competition. And then, after many years living like a king, Yul Brynner entered the end of his life. But before that, he left the world wonderful legacies and stories that amaze anyone who hears them. Yul Brynner's death and the legacy he left for the world. Victoria Brynner, Yul Brynner's daughter, has shared many memories and unique perspectives about her father in interviews, and while compiling the photo book Yul Brynner, A Photographic Journey. On the 25th anniversary of his death, Victoria reminisced, "What I find most interesting is that a famous, charming, and approachable person like my father had a completely different passion that he expressed excellently. That passion," she said, "was photography, a parallel world to Yul Brynner's illustrious acting career." Victoria Brynner is now the founder and director of Stardust Brands, a consulting company connecting luxury fashion houses with creative figures in high-end advertising and branding. Thanks to being raised and connected with the family, she always has a deep connection to the international world of film and fashion. Screen legend Audrey Hepburn was even her godmother, a testament to the Brynner family's closeness to the global artistic community. When thinking of Yul Brynner, audiences immediately remember roles that have gone down in stage and screen history. The authoritative King Mongkut in the play The King and I, the charismatic gunslinger in The Magnificent Seven, or the future threat in the film Westworld. In particular, the role of King Mongkut brought him 2 Tony Awards, conquering Broadway stages and national tours, and earning him the prestigious Oscar for the 1956 film adaptation. Not just an artistic achievement, his dedication and authenticity in every performance have become a standard for young actors today, who are still studying in workshops and advanced classes. In an interview with the Daily Telegraph, Victoria recalled a vacation with her father in 1972 and praised his camera skills. He was a talented photographer. He captured every moment of life through his lens in every film he made. Brynner was truly a multi-talented artist, a creative photographer with a unique eye, an author, a singer, and a refined art collector. His photos were exhibited in Paris, not only capturing everyday life but also the glamorous behind-the-scenes world of Hollywood. He even released a folk music album, The Gypsy and I, expressing his deep and multi-layered love for music. But alongside the glamour, Brynner also faced personal tragedies. As a lifelong smoker, he died of lung cancer in 1985. In his final months, he expressed a desire to leave something meaningful, an anti-smoking campaign. In January 1985, on the program Good Morning America, when asked what he would say to smokers if he could speak after death, Brynner delivered an impressive and clear message. 4 months after his death, the American Cancer Society turned that interview into a haunting and powerful public service announcement. From a Hollywood icon, Brynner became a resounding voice in the fight against tobacco, a gift to public health that outlived him. Today, his name is honored at a public landmark in Vladivostok, where he was born, where the statue of King Mongkut stands tall as an enduring symbol of art and culture. He left his handprints at Grauman's Chinese Theater and a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, vivid reminders of a great artistic journey. Yul Brynner is living proof that fame is not only created by the bright lights of the stage, but also by the lasting values an artist leaves for the community. His legacy is a blend of talent, artistic diversity, and social responsibility. If Brynner's story evokes some thought in you, please leave a comment below. Don't forget to like and share so more people can discover his journey, and subscribe to the channel for more upcoming stories. Because a legend like Brynner is not only built from the brilliant lights of Broadway or the endless applause, but also from the hidden scars behind the scenes. The silent battles he fought with pride are truths that perhaps even today the world has not heard in full. Now, pause for a moment to reflect. Yul Brynner's life teaches us that behind the glamour there are always shadows, but it is those shadows that make human strength. From an exiled boy in Russia, he rose to become an icon, despite many flaws. That is a lesson in perseverance, facing the past, and leaving a meaningful legacy. Thank you for listening. See you in the next video.